Welcome to Soul Therapy with Chelle. I am Chelle Griffin and I practice as a soul doula. I combine therapeutic knowledge and lived experience with a healthy dose of spiritual exploration. Feel welcome to join me as we learn and grow together, exploring the magic and wonderment of experiencing life on earth as a spiritual being. Welcome back to Soul Therapy with Chelle, and we have another gorgeous guest for you today, the amazing Vanessa Leone, and she has her own pod called Meant to Move, and Vanessa is a movement therapist. So welcome, Vanessa.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you so much, Chelle.
So lovely to have you here. You are so inspiring. I was checking out your socials and going through your website and listening to your pod, and you've got such a beautiful voice. It's so soothing and really you've got this lovely way of connecting with your audience. You really draw us in and make it comfortable to sit with you. And I know for me personally, I feel like I'm allergic to movement. So I'm really excited about this episode and stretching myself as well and learning more about you.
That's great. No, thank you. I really appreciate those kind words. It's always a journey, you know. So thank you.
One thing that really stood out for me, there's this line on your website called that you say, I believe that every person is a unique collection of experiences, feelings, and thoughts. And that really stood out for me. It feels really aligned with the work I do as a Gestalt psychotherapist. And I hadn't really thought to liken that to movement as well. And I wondered if you'd like to talk more to that.
Yeah, for sure. I think the way that we define movement or exercise is limiting, right? You talk about, feeling maybe a little bit nervous or feeling allergic to it. And I think that you're probably not allergic to it. You're allergic to like the way that we've defined it, right? The way that it's classified, the way that we act upon it. So for me, movement or motion, because any kind of motion that you're in, I think, is movement. If you're going for a walk, that's movement, but you're in motion. Movement and emotion are completely linked. So you can't have a physical body without having the emotional body, and you can't have the emotional body without having the thinking brain and the thinking mind, and that's where that comes into it. And I had a mentor very early on in my career, which I'm really grateful for, and he actually is on my podcast like quite regularly. And what he said initially is emotion is motion, and you can feel that through physical sensations. So if you're anxious, your heart rate is a little bit up. Your body actually has a physical response. It starts to stiffen. Your muscles actually start to stiffen. Your blood vessels will dilate. They'll go more towards your muscles. And it's all part of that flight and fight response. Your body is preparing for action. Anxiety is just something that is preparing your body to move. The problem is that we then don't move. Is that we force that shutdown, and all of that goodness inside of you, that physical reaction that's happening for a reason, gets shut down or gets trapped, and it doesn't have its outlet. It can't come out. And the same would be for like an anger expression or all of those things. And the way that we kind of really figured this out is that we watched blind athletes blind from birth compete at the Olympic Games. And their celebration from winning is exactly the same as a sighted athlete, exactly the same. They raise their arms in exaltation, their chest is up, they're proud, they're big, they have a body language that is innate. It's not learned. And that is so powerful when you think about the connection to your body, because you can't separate what you feel because it's inside you. It's literally a physical feeling. You know what I mean? It's not like we make it up. And your thoughts create your emotions. and your emotions create the physicality of it. So it's so linked. We can't separate it. And when we can use emotion in movement, in exercise, in whatever you want to call it, it's so powerful. You know what I mean? That's what really starts to transform you from being maybe scared of exercise or hating exercise into something that you can capture for yourself, something that you do for yourself that makes you feel good, that pushes you forward into, momentum, into safety. So many people, exercise isn't safe for them. It's not. And it brings up those feelings of anxiousness and scared and fear and all of that. And you can't feel good when you're in that space. So yeah, I think first of all is understanding that we can't separate it is a really good place to be. And the world's getting better at this. But then I love to talk about how to make exercise, movement, whatever it might be, accessible so that it's not a scary place, so that it's not unsafe, so that you can trust the feelings in your body and know what to do with emotion and movement and to make yourself feel better. So I don't know if I went completely off tangent, but that's really like what I'm super interested in.
There's so much in there. I was having this like epiphany pop off moment when you were saying that the body is wanting to feel safe. And I had this immediate thought back to being a teen and being told you can't go out walking on your own, you're a girl, it's not safe. And just go, oh my God, like where did that come from? Like that voice just popped in and went, gosh, that's such an ingrained core belief that we've been conditioned to believe. For women, the world over, I grew up in a safe area, and yet there was still that societal conditioning that women weren't safe, women are vulnerable, so you can't go out alone. So therefore, something that whenever I've been for a walk, I've never regretted it. I've always felt those endorphins, the flood of satisfaction, and my muscles aching in a pleasurable way, and knowing that I've made a difference, I've shifted something. I've never once regretted having done the exercise. The amount of times I've regretted not starting though.
Yeah.
When the body, like you said, the body is needing to move, and then we immobilize ourselves. And for me, I know that's when the thought kicks in. And I'm such a hypocrite because I work with my clients and just encouraging movement is so good for your mental health. It's so nourishing. It's such a cheap and freeing way to support your nervous system, stabilizing, slowing down that fight or flight response, especially for clients who experience consistent levels of anxiety. Those raised cortisol levels become their normal, and they just don't know how to drop back and ground. So I'm always advocating for movement.
Yeah.
But I notice my own internal struggle with that, going, oh, but I'm tired, I didn't sleep well last night, I've got to do this, I've got to get the kids here, I'll do that after in the afternoon. No, in the afternoon I'm wanting to slow down, I'm meant to be slowing down. I know that for my cortisol levels. So I really resonated when that moment when you said safety. I'm like, whoa, that just landed.
It's so much bigger than we give it credit for, and unfortunately not a lot of people in the fitness industry are learning about psychological safety. And I think we're becoming a bit more trauma informed, but it's not necessarily translating into the exercise space. And I have quite definitive examples of clients who I can clearly see a fear response, either from them entering a gym, like straight away. You can see it in their body, in their eyes. Like, why would you go there? Like, why would you go there if that area, if that space produces that response in you. Like, I wouldn't go somewhere where I feel terrible just walking in. That doesn't make any sense. So I understand the block, the barrier. And I have clients who have had pain and trauma and suffering that when we try to get them moving again, the fear of hurting themselves, or the fear of a relapse paralyzes them in that moment. And then there's also the parallel of some people was when they get their heart rate up. That feels like anxiety. That feels like a panic attack.
Yeah.
And so they don't have a positive association with exercise feelings in that space, because those feelings to them feel like stress, feel like pain, feel like fear. And they kind of are super similar physiologically if you're looking internally about what's actually happening. But they haven't been taught how to regulate their breathing. They haven't been taught how to notice their body in what are you feeling? Like, okay, you're feeling your heart rate. That's good. You're feeling like it's a little bit more challenging to breathe. Okay, what else are you noticing? What are the other sensations? Like, and instead, because of that heightened awareness based on trauma, or because their anxiety is so high, they can't get past that barrier of exercise makes me feel out of breath. That's hard. It's really hard. I already have to deal with so much hard. That's another hard thing that I don't want to have to deal with. I'm going to put that in a box and put it somewhere else. Yes. Regardless of how many people tell me it's good for me, it doesn't feel good for me.
That makes total sense. The way we respond to that physical motion and react in such a visceral, emotional way that I love how you keep correlating that connection, and it just makes perfect sense. I can feel like all my own personal decision making over the years and going, oh my God, yes, of course I would react that way. Of course,
sure.
that feeling of uncertainty. Am I going to survive this? Am I going to be able to take a breath? And you're on that edge of going into that beautiful sweet spot of, oh, okay, I've jumped over the cliff. I'm in here. I'm still okay. And wow, look at me, I'm moving. And we often, as humans, tend to sort of hold back from taking that leap, don't we?
Yeah.
We don't like change. And change is the one thing that's certain in our life. Well, that and death, our demise, obviously. Yeah. But change is ever consistent, and that brings me to another reference that I notice. You talk about this concept of slowgress.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to hear more, because I feel like that ties in with that way that we hinder ourselves and hold ourselves back.
Yeah, well, Instagram feeds, our social media, and the news floods us with this kind of information that, you know, if you're not doing 45 minutes a day, or, you know, if you're not lifting heavy, or if you're not doing all these things, you're failing, essentially. And I battle with an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's. So I really flirt with that edge of fatigue. And I'm a prolific perfectionist and high achiever, and I'm really painful. And so I'm really bad at saying no to things. So I flirt with that line, and I have previously. I well understand burnout. Yeah. And it's still a really challenging lesson for me to deal with. And if you're not doing any movement and you're already flirting with that line, it's so hard to then put movement into that, because it's going to tip you over that line if you go for that 45-minute Pilates class. If you go to that, even if you go to the relaxing yoga class, it can still tip you over the line to burnout, because you're still moving your muscles in ways that you haven't for a while.
And working harder to still your mind as well.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So this is the concept of Slowgress is the idea that that's fake. Like that, those goals are like, they're not your goals. They're They're what science has come up with to say that we should in inverted commas be doing, because we're not out in the fields anymore, and we're not running around, and we're not playing, and we don't have physical activity as a part of our day-to-day life. We're not in movement, we're not in motion, we're stagnant. So that's just it's just an ideal, which is great. We should strive for those things if that makes us feel good, but how you get there, it's not linear. And it's not, it's like, if I don't start at a 45-minute class and I failed, it's not worth trying. It's like, well, if you're not doing anything, that's a really high benchmark to set yourself from literally nothing. Like, there's a huge gap there. The fitness industry isn't great at the gap. Do you know what I mean? Like, all of these 45-minute classes exist, and they're kind of this baseline. But I would say for most people who aren't engaging in physical activity, that baseline is much too big of a jump, much too big of a jump. And so Slowgress is about, okay, what is the smallest thing that I can do? Literally the smallest thing that I can add that's going to have a positive improvement for my health and well-being today. So I don't go for a walk at all. Or I can just take myself around the block, because that's going to take me 10 minutes. I have quite a large block. But if the block is smaller, it might take you less. I'm just going to go around the block. And the one thing that I think about Slowgress is it is important to have a little measurement in terms of like setting yourself a barometer. I talk about standards versus goals. Goals are the ideal. Standards help you live your life. So you have a standard of brushing your teeth before you go to bed, or washing your face. It's just a standard thing that you've enacted in your life to keep you hygienic, right? Movement adds to your hygiene. So what could be your new standard for the next month that you're setting, so that now that becomes just the thing that you do every day, like brushing your teeth, like whatever. And so you keep just kind of growing these standards slowly until it's just a little bit more a part of your life. And if you're not going to the 45-minute class until 6 months after you've decided to start enacting some of these smaller things, that's great. If it takes you a year, who cares? Like, you're on no one's agenda except your own. And the smallest thing that you can do right now is the best thing that you can do, because it's the one with the least barrier. But it's the one that's going to have the biggest impact because you can do it the most.
Beautiful. Just, I have no words. Beautiful. You explain that so eloquently, and it's not a complex concept, but I know a lot of our listeners will go like, oh my God, yes, I spend every Monday just going, I'm going to start this Monday and I'm going to go to Pilates on Monday, a 3K run on Wednesday, yoga on Friday, and then you get to Monday and you go, who am I kidding? I haven't booked a class. I don't know where to go. I don't even have gym gear laid out. And it's just suddenly all those obstacles have been set up and that's impossible. And then you write the week off. Okay, exactly. Well, I'll start again next Monday. And that's one thing that I've had to learn throughout my adulthood in particular, that it's just the little steps, and it's the start in the next moment, start in the next hour, in the next meal, or the next walk. And I know for me, if I have my clothes laid out the night before, I show up for myself the next day.
Yeah.
And I walk. And that's one thing I've gone, okay, I have to trick myself. I've set myself up to be successful. I've taken little steps to be successful. And that's that's a big part of the therapy I do with my clients. Just how can you, as a couple, set yourself up to successfully meet each other? It's not about lowering expectations or dismissing someone else's capability. It's like, where can you meet that you can both feel a sense of satisfaction?
100%.
And then build from that beautiful foundation. And then you've gone and applied it to movement, and I'm like, my mind's blown. Tune in next week when we will play the conclusion of my conversation with Vanessa Leone. In that part of the episode, Vanessa gets personal and shares her own experience of adversities and how she propelled herself slowly into Slowgress and landed into this beautiful profession that she currently serves in, with that movement and the connection to emotion and resulting in gorgeous empowerment. See you then. Thank you for showing up for yourself by listening to Soul Therapy with Chelle. Feel welcome to subscribe to my podcast, share the pod with your friends, family, colleagues and neighbours, and please, if you are willing, I would absolutely love a 5-star review to give my little pod a boost in the algorithms. For further detail on how to work with me, please visit my website www.chellgriffin.com or find me on the socials. I hope you'll join me on my next episode. Till then, go gently and intentionally. With care, Chelle.